Should you prepare your questions in advance when you're going to interview your relatives for family history? Well, we'll talk about that in 5 seconds. Hi, I'm Greg Kleiss, the host of Road to Your Family History YouTube channel. Thanks for joining me. Hey, before we get started, be sure to click below on the subscribe button and the like button. That'll tell Google that you want to see more of my videos, and it'll tell me that you want to see more of my videos too. So I'd appreciate it. Thanks. Okay, let's get down to business. Now, all of you are probably much better than me, and I'm talking about your memory here. But, when I sit down to interview someone for family history, if I don't have the questions written down, they start to hide in those dark recesses in my brain somewhere. I don't know where, but, I forget a lot of them. So my advice to you is prepare those questions in advance and write them down. That's vital. I don't care how you do it. You can use pencil and paper, pen and paper. You can use a computer document like Word or Pages, anything like that. You can even scratch them on slates if you want to. But however you choose to do it, please write those questions down. Because believe me, when you get started in doing an interview, and especially if things go off on a tangent somewhere, you're not going to remember those questions that you thought about beforehand that were vital for you to ask that person during the interview. You have to have those questions with you during the interview. Believe me, it's going to help you in lots of ways. And let's talk about a couple of the ways that it's going to be helpful, okay? First of all, it's going to save you time. You're not going to have to pause and search your brain to recall those questions because, believe me, they're going to hide. The second thing is it will keep you organized. If you don't write them down, you could jump from topic to topic, and this could confuse both you and the person you're interviewing and slow down the interview process, and you won't get quite as much good information from the interview. So really, it can keep you on track. Now, your interview subject will, at some point during the interview, or maybe several points, they will get off on a tangent. Now, this isn't necessarily a bad thing, as we'll discuss in some other videos about interviewing. But in most cases, you'll have to eventually bring the interview back to the path you mapped out. Now, you'll get so engrossed in those tangents that it will get you thrown off your plan if the questions are not written down. So those are the main reasons for you to write down those questions. It's going to be so helpful, believe me. What questions should you ask during your interview? Well, there's not really a set of questions that you're going to need to ask in every single interview. Now, there's an exception to that. There's just a very few questions that you really should ask, or subject questions that you need to ask in every interview the first time you interview someone. But each interview is really going to be unique depending on who the person is, how much you know about them, and how much you don't know about them and your family history. Now, the example questions I'm going to give you are definitely not comprehensive. This is just hitting the tip of the iceberg, but the general examples that I give you could take up a whole interview, maybe even several interviews. But if nothing else, it'll kickstart the memories for the person you're interviewing, and maybe, hopefully, talking up a storm about your family history. So start your questioning with the person you're actually interviewing. First of all, because most people like talking about themselves, but you'll have to review ahead of time how much you know about that person you're interviewing. You may not know some very basic information about them, like when they were born, where they were born, and if it's a woman, you may not even know their maiden name. That happens a lot. So the first thing you're going to want to do is to fill any gaps you have. Now, here's the basic questions you should be asking about that person that you're interviewing. First of all, when and where were you born? When and where were you married? Were you married in a religious ceremony, say in a church or synagogue, or in a civil ceremony, say with a justice of the peace? Now, who are the best man and maid of honor? Or other members of the wedding party? And why were those people chosen for those roles? What kind of work did you do, and where did you do it? Did you enjoy that work? Was there something special about that work that you can recall? Where did you go to school, and what were your favorite subjects? Now, once again, these are not magic questions, but they're very general things, especially for the person you're interviewing, to get them started talking. And believe me, some of these very simple questions can generate a lot of discussion. And I mentioned before that, you can get off on a tangent, and it's not necessarily a bad thing if it's giving you the basic information or some good basic information that you need to get from that person. Next, you can ask the person you're interviewing about their immediate family. People like their mother and father, sisters and brothers. Here's some questions you might want to ask. What were your brothers and sisters' names? When and where were they born? If they're not still alive, ask when and where they died. What medical conditions did they have? While the question about medical conditions may seem intrusive, it's important to know this to pass on to your doctor. It could really help aid a diagnosis for your present or future medical conditions, as well as your children's or grandchildren's medical conditions. If the interviewee asks why you're asking about that, explain it to them just like that. And if they're reluctant to give that information, don't push it. Don't push it. Some people may not want to talk about that at all. Okay, some more questions. What were your parents' names? If they're not still alive, ask when and where they died. What medical conditions did they have? If the interviewee has little or no memory of their parents, you might want to interview older siblings of the interviewee or other people that knew them. You can use many of the same questions you asked the interviewee, such as date and place of birth, date and place of wedding, and so on. But this time around, ask them about the parents of the person you're interviewing. Okay, now it's time to dig back a little further with the person you're interviewing, whether it's your parents or grandparents. Ask them about their grandparents or their great-grandparents. It's not likely they'll know anything more about people further back than that, but it is possible. If they don't have direct knowledge, they might have heard things about their great-grandmother or further on back. Now, that information may not necessarily be accurate, because if things are passed down from generation to generation, some of those can not be necessarily accurate. Game you used to play, we used to call it telephone, where you would whisper something into someone's ear, and then that person would whisper something into someone else's ear. We used to do that in our classroom sometimes. By the time it got around to the 20 or 25 students in the classroom, what that first person said and what the last person who heard it said that they heard, those stories can be a lot different than each other. Well, the same thing happens in family history sometimes. Now, at this point, you're probably not going to be able to verify whether those stories are true or not. But write them down. Even if you think they might not be true, they might be kind of far-fetched, but it doesn't matter. Write them down because they could be clues for further research. Try to get some personal color from them, because it's things that really are going back a couple generations from you, couple, maybe 3 or 4 even, and just get some information from them. What did they think about their grandparents or great-grandparents? What did they look like? What did they do? I mean, what were their personalities like? It's something you're not going to be able to find, or very unlikely, in a lot of documents. Even what did they look like? Were they tall? Were they short? What color eyes did they have? What color hair? Things like that. It adds color and depth to your family history, just besides the date of birth, date of death, things like that. That type of information may or may not help you find generations further back, but even if it doesn't, it does add that color and substance and personality to the family history. Okay, now we come to some questions you need to always ask in an interview, because this could reveal some really great stuff that will help you in your family history. Here they are. Do you have any photographs or other images of you as a child, or any of your parents, grandparents, or anybody further back in the family? Now, include in this request photographs of family homes or pets. Matter of fact, I had found some 19th century glass plate negatives of a family, and one of them was a picture of a painting of a beloved family horse with his name underneath. Now, obviously that horse meant a lot to that person, so once again, that adds some more color to the story. Also ask the person, do you have any papers related to the family history, which could include things like birth records, death records, marriage records, maybe house or property deeds, wills, letters written by or to family members, and so on. And the third question that you must ask in every interview is, may I contact you with any follow-up questions I might think of when reviewing this information? Now, this could also include scheduling another interview session, but requesting subsequent interviews will also be discussed more in later videos in this series. Coming up with interview questions is not a, one-size-fits-all proposition. No, like I said earlier, it's going to depend a lot on the person you're interviewing. Just for example, I know this is just one of many variables that could come up. Say, for example, that you know from previous things your mother had told you that she was, say, the subject of abuse by her parents. Well, you want to avoid some of those questions, asking about her parents that she may not want to answer. Now, you may not know where sensitive topics will come up, but if they do, if you see a negative reaction, then you might want to steer clear of some of those questions that to you may not appear to be sensitive questions, but you never know what people will be sensitive about. Could be something that if you knew about it, you would be very sensitive about it, and it might be things that you may not be sensitive about it, but maybe they are. And that could include things like pregnancies before marriage that really were a big deal several years ago. They're not a big deal now, but that person may be sensitive about things like that. So that should give you some food for thought on what questions you need to ask when you're interviewing someone about your family history. So join us next time on the road to your family history.